G'day beautiful people, we are back. Speckled Dog Clown Madness going on here, and we're just going to keep on painting it and taking it to a few more levels. And the last little bit of beautiful sunlight New Zealand has to offer, so that's very exciting. Well, if you don't know how much sunlight that is, it's any man's guess. We're going to rotate around just a wee bit. Just dipping down there a little bit. I'm going to bring you around here, team. Here you go. Yeah. So we've got 3 dogs in frame. Little fellas. This is called Dos Pedos, which is a fun name that I coined for it, which is basically saying we've got 2 dogs. 2 dogs. Here we go. Bring this over here. Now, I had a little extra plate. I did. Here it is. Just a little tacker, little glass plate. I'm gonna chuck that one down there. At this time of night as well, this is gonna sound like a type recorder at the moment here in New Zealand. Lots of noises. And the rationale behind those noises is that is the tuis here in New Zealand nesting themselves, relaxing in the trees, maybe in the last tiny little bits of nectar. And yeah, they're all over this place. They are absolutely all over the show. But anyway, it's about to start getting cold. It's about to start getting nippy. But we've got plenty enough time to just do 2 or 3 colours. Nothing major, just 2 or 3. G'day, Steve. Welcome on in. We're back on the, see this here? I don't often do this, but if you've got some water handy and you put them in water, these brushes survive incredibly well. So anyway, that's just a little thing. Hello, forever. Forever and ever. Oop. Tube of white we haven't even touched yet. Let's just pop the lid off that. We're back on the Atlia paints. We just like the way they flow. They do flow nice. Probably in another 2 layers, we'll move back to golden, more thicker viscosity to chuck on the next layer. But at the moment, just keep those light fun layers going on. Yeah, we want some kinda, I want to say baby blue, but I think that's wrong. There's teals, there's turquoises, probably a really stripped out ultramarine jumping into the white with a bit of transparency. That's going to be the avenue we go down. G'day Jay Smith, welcome on in. I'm going to get cerulean and I'm going to get ultramarine, and we're going to use both those colours to see if we can't blend it into a bit of white and get that water to where we want it. Loki's a bit gutted. He hasn't had the attention he deserves today. We've been all over the show, so poor little fella. Koopy had her first dental appointment, so that was exciting. She, as I explained it to Shelby, she went fully feral and did not let the dentist see inside her mouth. The moment she entered that room, saw that chair and saw the dentist, she was like, nah, get me out of here, Daddy. What are we still doing here? She was very clear with how she felt about that whole operation. And the dentist said, look, that's, you know, this happens, some kids are like this, that's okay, come back in 6 months. We don't think there's anything too wrong with it. The best we could do is I described Koopy's teeth to the dentist. That was the best we could do. But she was not going to have a bar of someone having a look inside her mouth. That was all very, very new and peculiar to her, and she was not into it. She's like, Daddy, I don't know why you brought me here, but you're going to get me out of here. This is not my vibe. She enjoyed the toys in the waiting room, but hanging around to do dentist stuff, They had all sorts of toys and bits and pieces to try and win her over. But you know when a kid realizes bribery or, you know, that kind of thing's afoot? Once she realized that they wanted something out of her. You want to see inside my mouth? Nah, all bets are off. All bets are off, and I'm going to become a problem. So that's quite funny. It's quite funny. Alrighty, tighty. And I couldn't help myself. Just going to get a bit of sneaky black in here, because I think black is, I think in terms of a player, like, what's the damage done? We'll be talking about black before any other color. We could say, oh, blue and red do amazing things. Nothing has impact on a piece of artwork like the color black. Black gets in there and completely reimagines how the contrast of work's going to be. I do dabble lightly on some works with it, but every time I see a work where I get quite heavy-handed with the black in the right places, you're always thinking, yeah, that's a banger. And sometimes even just using paint black doesn't even cut the mustard. You need to get yourself like some ink black or something that just sits with just incredible potency on the surface and just really jumps out. It makes a big difference in different lighting conditions. It is 112 here. Is that the temperature right now, Jim? That is outrageous. 112. Oh, wait a minute, that's Fahrenheit. It's Fahrenheit, isn't it? But that is, what's that in Celsius? You gotta help me out, Jim. You gotta help me out. I imagine it's tough. Thanks, Christy. I just push this out of the way a little bit. There we go. I imagine it's a lot. So look, this work's got, I don't know, I think we might, are we closer or further away? It's hard to know. I always say it's impossible to tell, but that doesn't stop me from like taking a guess and a punt every now and again. G'day LJ, it has been a long time. Welcome on back. Welcome on back. We're painting dogs, LJ. Retrievers, in fact. This one's called Brophy. Brophy's here, Murphy's here. And we're using the last little bit of dying light here in New Zealand. Look, there is a wonderful, giant, magnificent shed. Brilliant, tailor-made for painting it. It is just, mwah. I love it to bits. I love my shed, guys. I love my shed. Did I tell you I love my shed? 44. Yuck. Yuck. 44 degrees in Arizona. By golly, imagine that with full humidity. Ugh. 44.4. God, I was complaining about the cold here and I hear that number. Give me back the cold. Man, I'd be running to the nearest McDonald's for some aircon. That is out the gate. Did I tell you I love my shed? What I was saying was that shed's great, but it is so cold in there at the moment. Like outside with a little bit of the sun's rays, it's a little bit better, but in there, like it is, I'm pretty sure if you put some frozen meat in there, you could come back in a week's time, it would still be frozen. It is cold in there. It's cold. It's an exaggeration, you know, a day or two, but like it gets you. It gets you. And everywhere is cold in New Zealand at the moment, actually. And we get cold even more so on a gorge. In a gorge, you even get a slight change in a microclimate where the flat farmland beside you actually pulls down into the gorge, and that extraction down to the lower territory pulls it right past your house, right there on the edge. So on one hand, you've got a great view. On the other hand, you do get this cold cut that comes across your property, only during the winter time, which I didn't know until I started living in a gorge. And I was saying to GBT, or my AI, I was saying to it, why is it so cold? Because I've lived in this area my whole life, and now I've just found that these gorges are just so cold. And it's like, ah, fun fact, you're in a microclimate. And I'm like, oh, great. That's awesome. Chrissy, great question. The answer is yes. I'm a fan. It's got, yeah, yes, yeah. And with those kind of things going on, I should be more sympathetic to the fact that, yeah, it's quite nice. But like, you guys also have to appreciate that me joining this conversation is somewhat pointless, because when you in America or Canada, a lot of other parts of the world say it's cold here or it's hot here, you're dealing with extremes. 44.4 Celsius is out the gate. In New Zealand, we say it's cold or we say it's hot, and when we say it's cold, we're talking -1 Celsius. We're talking in a bandwidth of what America would just call mild is our full range of hot to cold. And so when you take that into account, when you say I want summer, I want winter, New Zealand, I mean, you do get a few extremes, but not like I've seen you guys get. You know, the heat of Texas in winter, that's special, all right. That's something that you learn something. You learn something in Texas in winter. There you go. I'm going to jump across into some white now. Getting a bit heavy-handed on the black. Jump across into white, make it grey, and then I'll flick across into blue. It's just so easy to get very heavy-handed on black. There's so much detail it starts showing up, you can't help but to... Grey's going to play a big role in this too. At the moment, it's quite clowny. Jackie, hello. They are dogs, Jackie, well spot. I love it. That's why I say when my daughter shows me artwork, Mark, when she goes, look what I did. Look, Daddy, look. And I go, I love it. I love it. I always make a point after she gives me something like that, and I take it. You've got some blue tack right beside my desk, and I put it up on the wall somewhere straight away. I'm just trying to show that in her eyes, I want her to think that I want her to think that it's valued in my eyes. Yeah, anyway. I love it. Yeah. I hope as this goes on too, I don't want hard edges in this work. I want to keep that blotchy kind of fun, loose, watery style. I don't want to start etching in dog hairs. I want to keep them actually quite vibrant and shimmering, if we can help it. And then, like I say, a lot of detail in this water, just fun. Like, there's only so much time you want to spend looking at the dogs themselves. Like, love looking at dogs, but then you want to actually have some fun walking around, especially with this sky up here, this kind of island out far away in the water, and the possibility of these waves rolling in on shallow water. That kind of stuff, that fun, those fun elements to imagine. Loki, that is my brush. Bring it in. Oh, it's too late. You chewed it to bits, buddy. He keeps eating brushes off my stand and chewing them to bits. It's pretty rough going, but anyway. Hello, who's that there? Ibian. Ibian, welcome on in. Ibian, the moment you've come into this room, the lighting has just changed and the sun has popped out from behind a cloud and it is casting its juicy rays all over the face of this work. So Ibian, if you were coincidentally the result of that, I'd like to thank you very, very much for showing up and making that possible, because a beautiful bit of sun right now will be useful on two fronts, to both warm me up and make the artwork pop a little bit. I think we stopped with the blacks just at the right time as well. You be careful with those things, they really get in there. Juicy rays do sound good. In fact, Juicy Rays, that sounds like the name of a really cool bar. You know, if who's that there? If Ibian, no. Oh, thanks Ibian, sending good energy back. If Elvis was like, yo, Seb, where are we catching up tonight? And I'm like, Juicy Rays. You'd be like, oh, Juicy Rays, they always have the best jazz music. Like, Juicy Rays would go off. And you just know Juicy Rays has got a good beverage selection. And I just assume if I heard the name like Maximus or Equinox, I don't get filled with confidence that the bar's gonna have great music. But when I hear Juicy Rays, that bar cranks. That bar has good playlists. I'm thinking kind of like 80s soul, 80s power ballads. If I heard Journey, was it Don't Stop Believing by Journey, coming out of a Juicy Rays? In fact, I reckon Juicy Rays should be a franchise. It's Rays, it's plural. There should be Juicy Rays all the way from New Zealand, all through Arizona, certainly. If it gets hot, if it gets to 44.4 degrees in Arizona, you need to go to a Juicy Rays. That's it right there. There should be Juicy Rays in Hawaii. There should be Juicy Rays in just everywhere. Just everywhere. I think people, when they're looking for a place to buy or where they should go for real estate, they would be going on Google Earth, searching nearest Juicy Rays and choosing that to be the place to go. Like, that should just be the case. There we go. Grey's always fun because it actually chills everything else out. If you want to lose a clown effect when things get very blotchy and intense with the primaries, jump across into grey, because grey is just going to pull it all back. You won't lose too much of that vibe, but it will just make it all seem more bedded in realism. And it's sad that grey makes things more real, because that just, it's kind of a shine about the world we live in. But no, grey's nice. I'm looking around at the trees right now. Let me take you for a spin. If I take you for a spin around here, like a lot of, and excuse the mess around here, a lot of the trees, it's not just abundant saturation of green. There's a lot of grey that makes up everything in between. That's just how a camera or our eyes see the world. Heck, even right now, to make the shot that you're seeing real, the camera's already turning it very grey here as it kind of, the sun dips and the light gets not just diffused but actually blocked a little bit And then all the colour just starts leaving a little bit and just gets a little bit more grey with what we're dealing with. There's nothing wrong with grey. That being said, I'm going to chuck a bit of blue through it. You can flick that there. There we go. Thanks, Daniel. Good to have you here. Santiago, it's been a hot minute, and good to have you back. And Chelsea, hello. Welcome. Welcome on in. There we go. So part of the key to this water as well is going to be making sure that we keep the brush wet. If this brush doesn't stay wet, the water on the surface will be dry, and as soon as the dry brushing starts to happen, then it won't look like a wet brush. If it doesn't look like a wet brush in the water's just not going to look wet. It's going to be very hard to get the effect of wet water with a dry brush. Like, well, I agree, paint can do anything it wants to. At some point, especially with water, making sure the brush is wet is kind of a cheat code to making water look wet. And that shouldn't be rocket science. Yeah. What are you doing, Loki? So with the sun dipping down too, I'm sorry I didn't come in earlier and stay around for longer, but we did get out here though. Shelby said, you get into gear and get down there. And she went down there to start buying a basin. I have to get a white basin for our kitchen. And I said to Shelby, what kind of basin should we, like, you know, should it be this one or this one? She said to me, honestly, at this point, I just don't care, just get one. I find that oftentimes it's so easy with artwork to kind of sporadically decide, spontaneously decide, do this next. But when you're doing something like a kitchen, I do get locked in this like paralyzing, oh, should it be this or should it be this? Let me think about this some more. If I treated artwork like I treat changing a sink in a kitchen, I'd spend my life never getting a sink for a kitchen. Sometimes I wish I could approach other elements in my life in the same way you could approach a painting. Though you say that, and then there's someone else out there who's wishing in the same way they could approach their painting like they approach the rest of their lives. So, aren't we all a special bunch? There we go. Beautiful. Just like that. Let's get a bit of this blue into this dog's coat. Needs to get just a wee bit more transparent. Thanks, Albert. It's a delight to have you here. Delight to have you here. You paint landscapes, oil on canvas. I love that. You know, I was watching a reel yesterday night, actually. Yesterday night. I was watching a reel last night. And it was a person who was painting with acrylics versus oils. And I didn't think it was a fair comparison between acrylics and oils, even though they were technically perfect, both the pictures, because they painted the acrylics like you should paint oils. And so it was kind of showing that oils are better in this application. But when you do the oils just like the acrylics, acrylics can't compete. Oils are just better. But when you use acrylics for what acrylics are good for, like adding mediums in, like, I've got a few here. I think I had a few here. Yeah, this kind of stuff. Oils from the tube directly beat acrylics 99 times out of 100. But when you start adding in little funky mediums like heavy gel glosses, painting mediums, transparency mediums, coarse mediums, texture mediums, then you start out competing oils, because oils don't play too well adding a bunch of mediums. They work well with raw colour out of the tube, a little bit of oil in to dilute it, and then sometimes you put in liquid, which is like a thinning agent, or, you know, terps and stuff like this. But actually, if you want to get gritty, grimy, changing, transparent textures everywhere, acrylic's going to play quite well. And like, that doesn't mean that acrylics are better than oils. It just means you've got different applications on different routes. And so they're hard to kind of put beside each other and say, you know what, one beats the other one. But for the sake of a 15-second reel, let's compare them, because that's kind of fun. I do my paintings with acrylics. Love that. Yeah, that is Da Vinci 101A. So Da Vinci and the Mona Lisa, whether it's, I don't know if it's been proven, it's strongly suspected that the base layers of the Mona Lisa are egg tempera. So he was doing them with a fast kind of process that dries within 20 seconds to actually smash out the earlier layers, build the composition, and then say, right, now I'm going to grab my oils and do it perfectly. Like, I love that. You can actually paint. There's a heinous crime for a bit of realism, but you can paint acrylics and oils at the same time, and honestly, the effects can be pretty cool. Because what can happen, I'm on 20% battery, but the light won't survive that long. Hello, Tatum. Been a hot minute, good to see you. Grab your oils, yeah, yes, nacho. Grab your nachos. Had nachos last night, no, night before last, and they were amazing. But, what was I saying? Nachos distracted me. Something about paint. That's helpful. Something about paint. Well, Seb, so insightful. It was right there, right? It's gone. It's long gone. It's gone. Climb into some of this pink here. If you are going to work with oils, like, just make sure, especially if you've got those nasty turpentines and things, you get that ventilation in there. Please, please. I see these artists on Instagram now. Some of them do some amazing works, but the spaces are so confined, and I'm like, it's functional right now, but I'm worried for your health. I'm worried, like, I feel like an old millennial worrying for people when I see their confined studios. I'm like, please, please don't hurt yourself. I'm like, wow, this young early 20s artist who's you know, making creations, I couldn't be less cool in their eyes. You know, they're trying to make their craft work, they're trying to do this stuff, and they've got this guy who's 34 being like, look after yourself. It's like, shut up, Dad. But do look after yourself. Ventilation's important. Like, not just a little, really important. Ooh. Epoxy and oil. Base coat acrylic, epoxy coats, and oil. Yeah. So the epoxy comes in there too. So the third dimension you can add into acrylics and oils is you can add epoxy in, which basically epoxy is not dissimilar, but epoxies typically come in a two-part thing, which is you mix them together, they create a bit of heat, and then it seals, and they're usually the things that just dry perfectly flat. So one thing that can happen with artwork is when you get a lot of texture, it gets hard to make smooth or wet brush strokes effectively. How do you fix it? You chuck a full layer of epoxy over the top, and then you're left with a completely smooth, flat surface to paint on again. And the result is you can have multiple layers, and you're looking through these glass layers at different layers of paint, and it's quite beautiful. But by golly, is it time consuming, but the result is worth the wait. And you're working with epoxies, which are volatile, and you know, don't listen to what anyone says, they will melt your brain. So proper ventilation, proper tools, everything. But you can combine all these different mediums. It's okay to do so. That's right, combining acrylics and oils at the same time. You can do it. There's fat over lean rules and things like that. There's actually not those rules if you don't mind cracking. So you don't do those things if you don't want the paint to crack. If you like the idea of the paint cracking a little bit, you know, it's separate, not curdling or ruining itself. It's the right color. It just cracks, you know, because it contracts, and then you can see the color underneath through the cracks. If you don't mind a bit of wilderness and the cracks don't bother you, they won't show up everywhere, only where you directly put one on top of the other the wrong way around. These cracks can be quite cool and effective. They can be. And if you don't limit yourself from them, they can, like, people can even look at them sometimes and be like, how'd you get those cracks? Like, that's really fun. And then a lot of the time, like, I've painted whole pictures with like a 50-50 blend at the same time, like being like, there's too much oil everywhere on this work, I'm gonna swap to acrylic, because they won't mix oil versus water. They kind of run beside each other, but you don't pick it up and then turn it all to porridge. And suddenly you're just jumping backwards and forwards with these thick pigmented colors and getting away with it. And the end work, even after years, doesn't actually crack all that much. It'll blow your mind. I thought, just from what I learned in art school, that if you put oil beside water, like acrylics beside oils, they just explode and everything goes wrong and it'll be a disaster. And then you should always test these things. Yes, thank you for telling me the rule. Then test the rule and see how bad it actually is, because sometimes you'll test it and be like, oh, okay, that was over dramatized. Yes, it does a little bit of that thing, but not enough for me not to do it. This actually works for me. You know, each person to their own. Fruit trees. I've got a lot of fruit trees. My mother's an avid gardener and she's helped me get some plum trees in. We've got a lot of peach trees that didn't do a crop last year due to what's called brown rot, because the bay's too warm. But I'm hopeful this year, after giving them a nice spray of copper. And then we've got some orange trees that have gone in, some tangerillos. I've got a water tank over there by the gallery, which I thought, it's quite unsightly, big concrete water tank. And I thought, I know what I'm going to do with you. I'm going to wrap it in wire, and then I'm going to get passion fruit, 3 plants to climb up over the tank. So the tank will still be there, it'll still have the water for the house, blah, 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 but it'll actually be covered with passion fruit. So then it's not really weird that it's right beside the gallery, it's kind of fun. At the moment, the gallery has, no, not the tangerillo, it's got a mandarin tree, an orange tree, and a lemon tree. So it's got a whole bunch of citrus trees surrounding it, and then passion fruit right by its front door. I'm just going to keep that going. So it's actually kind of this shed in and amongst an orchard. Like, it wants to look beautiful, but with trees that serve kind of a utility purpose. And that also keeps the ground quite clear. So actually maintenance around the shed, you can work in it and the whole thing stays clean. But as soon as you start getting things growing against it, creating excess dust or whatever else, that becomes a problem for the art inside the room. So if I can get really short cut, easy to maintain grass the whole way around the shed, a couple of citrus trees, there's some fun, you know, utility plants. There's got to be a sexier term for it, but useful things. Then when I have the shed doors open, there's not this, because if you have plants that are hard up against a shed wall or dense, you know, shrubberies of sorts, inside them it gets quite dry, and that dryness actually creates a little bit of dust, which then goes through the doors and causes all kinds of problems. And so as much as I can, the ground needs to be as clear as possible, as little dust as possible, to try and stop things from blowing into the shed while you're working. Because if you put an epoxy coat on the surface of a piece of artwork, and then in the next 24 hours, any specks of dust. Anything comes in there and lands on that surface, because you can't have it up like this. It's flat on the table, and then a speck of dust lands on it. It doesn't just add a speck of dust like it does when you're painting. The epoxy domes in, kind of like a physics experiment. You know, when they're trying to show how gravity works, it domes in on it. And so for every speck of dust, your coat is literally ruined by about a 3 millimeter doming in effect, which just ruins the surface. And so you can paint over it and stop it. And sometimes, I'll be honest, 5 to 15 of them on the surface are kind of cool. But when you get 200 of them because a dust cloud went up and landed on the work, you just look like an idiot. And so I don't think ever in the shed I'll be able to do. I've tried a few epoxy coats in the shed, and I just think, it's just too high risk. You need like a lid that goes down over it to hold it, or it needs to be done in one of the sunrooms. But I want to keep the epoxies away from the house. Cooper, myself, safety factors, like this all comes into it. Talk about a sweet studio. I like that. The sweet studio. Or the juicy studio. It's juice, right? There's juice everywhere. That's a grapefruit tree right there. It's a little bit away from the studio, but man, it had some grapefruit. Not a big one, but a good one. Grapefruit, 2 plums, 10 peaches that haven't provided yet. Oh my God, we talked about it. 4 massive olive trees, but the birds ate all the olives before I got to touch them, which, again, you know what? They were here first, have the olives. I didn't really have a plan for them, to be fair. Alice, welcome on in, Alice. Lovely to have you here. And thanks, Eddie. And Mr. Wolf, how are you? Oh, yeah, sorry, Mr. Wolf. I'm just not reading things right here. Thanks, Andreas. You know what? It's good having a pair of pants on you can just wipe your hands clean on, because things can get into a real mess. Pine nuts. I am in New Zealand. This is the Bay of Plenty. It is getting colder. Next coat we do on this work, we're actually not going to have a whole lot of paint at all. We're going to have the tiniest little, if you imagine the amount of toothpaste you give to a toddler, a pea, less than a pea, on the plate, and the rest will be a clear medium, because we're going to start moving heavily into those transparent layers. The transparent layers, they don't feel like when you're painting them, you can be quite brash with them, because you can just slap paint around, because it's not having a massive new color effect. It's adding like a 3% change to an area. But then after you've done it a lot, suddenly the whole work in aggregate has this amazing depth to it, where actually when you look at one little area, you don't just see, ooh, big dab of cerulean blue, he wanted blue there. You see the blue with the Naples yellow over the top, with a sweet Arctic blue like skimming across it, and then like a white flick that's transparent. You can see all those things happening at once, all on one spot. And all those strokes, not just that the color shows you so much, but that they keep more of their context. If you just see one little dab of blue, but it's lost the rest of its stroke because the colors are all too thick and matte-like, the flavor of understanding each stroke is lost. But when you can actually see all these transparent strokes crisscrossing in their entirety, the work can give you more. You can understand how it was made more. And if you can understand how it was made more, you're gonna enjoy it more. Because you know what? When you watch that show, How It's Made, it'll either put you off sausages forever, like Cheerios and things, or you watch like the crackers and the noodles get made and you suddenly think, wow, I feel like a cracker and some noodles. Like knowing how something's made, or being able to conceive of how it all came together, helps you enjoy it more. Yeah. Not everything's like that, but art kind of is. The more you help the viewer actually get on board and understand how you made it, and I can quantify, maybe not all the brush strokes in their entirety, but in that moment there, I can see how that brush stroke was made. That's an invitation to actually understand the work better. And with that invitation, you might like it more. I find I have a hard time liking artwork that I just can't grapple with how it's been made. Like, it is fun to ask, oh, how did you make that? But actually, if it doesn't give you a few little Easter eggs, like a hint of how the process took place, you know, that's why at the moment you might notice in lighting, sound like we're going off topic here, but in lighting, you know, actual pendant lighting and what shops downtown are selling, beaten brass and beaten copper is coming back into fashion. Do you know why beaten brass and beaten copper is so popular and sexy like at the moment? We can make smooth copper and smooth brass. And back in the day, that was more beautiful. But today, the beaten effect, it has this handmade touch. It actually feels like you understand how this beautiful brass pendant was created. You can see the individual beats, but if there wasn't individual beats on it, you wouldn't actually enjoy the pendant as much. It would feel more like a Kmart product. So today, more than any other time in probably, I don't want to say human history, but definitely over the last couple of 100 years, being able to actually get a tidbit of how something might have been created makes us value it more. And I just say, and I would just point you back in the direction of beaten brass pendants for lighting conditions. And there's a million and one different examples of that, and they don't really relate to painting, but it's kind of like a trend that I'm seeing. Hello, Heat. Hey, thank you very much, Heat. I appreciate you being in here, you champion. Yep, pop by for some fruit. I have an honesty box at the end of the road there. We've been thinking about that. I've been thinking, if we make enough fruit, we can get a little honesty box system and people can pop by and get fruit. And then I'm like, but why am I just planting all these fruit for an honesty boxes? I want to eat the fruit. One thing I've been dabbling away with, Tatum, is limoncello. And Shelby has a friend's father who makes amazing limoncello. And I'm thinking I want to get into the limoncello game, Alexis. And I don't have a recipe yet, but as far as I understand, you get a good quality clear spirit and you get your lemons and you get like a strong sugar base and you mix it all together and then you leave it for a long time and then you get cello. And I'm hoping it's that simple. And if it's that simple, I just want endless amounts of limoncello because I end up with too many, I hope you can make limoncello too, but I end up with too many lemons and limes and not enough uses for them. You can get through the other fruit because you juice it, but like hooking into a full glass of lemon juice, that's a tall order. That is not an easy thing to do. The only person who eats a whole lemon, skin and the center of it in its entirety, is Cooper. She's nuts. She's not nuts, she's gorgeous. But today, she ate a lemon from the top to the bottom. I'm like, she gets that from her father, but her father don't behave like that anymore. Jeepers creepers. Jam. I'm gonna become a jam maker too. My mother, margarine and things like that. So basically, from what I understand, you get a good, clean, sterile glass jar, and you just add a bunch of sugar to your delicious fruit, and then you just leave it for a long time, and yummy jam shows up, and then you become a jam guy. I'll become a jam guy. Let me just scroll up here a little bit. G'day, Dave. Thanks for joining in, you champion. Sorry. Skull and Crossbones. Bones. Your name has a lot of bones in it. Hello to London, Bones, and hello, Paul. Joy, good to have you here, mate. Every time I lean in to read all the comments too, I want you to know that I get my knees all wet. So Just letting you know that I do my best. Zaddy, day's going good. I think this palette is a bit overloaded with paint. I need, like I say, I need to get one that's empty, but I have no fresh plates over there, so we're kind of just maintaining until I get some fresh plates tomorrow and spread it out from there. There we go. First time today we break into the cerulean hue, but there we go. Gorgeous, 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 gorgeous. The curing process on Crucible of Worlds has come to a close. So now I'm going to put its frame on it. Pretty exciting time to be alive. The work is looking absolutely stunning, guys. I'll put it up on the, once I've photographed it, it'll go up on the archive and walkthrough so you can see it from your phone or computer, zoom in, draw all over it, do whatever it is you like to do. Ten 10,000 miles, 10,000 more. Dun dun dun, la da dee da da da. Making a sneak in there. 10,000 miles, 10,000 more. A little dee do. Go. Gorgeous. Wow. A bit more in there. Gorgeous. Gorgeous. There we go. Wonderful. You know, excuse me, Koopy's brought home another one of her little flues. Thanks, Sadie, I appreciate it. I go into the screen sometimes, and I go in always expecting or believing that I'm going to read an art. Hello, good morning to Spain. Where is that? Valencia. Valencia? Am I pronouncing that right? I love that. Always believing I'm going to read like something like, hey, art question, art comment, and then Beyonce comes in. And I've got to disengage and then move on back to the painting. I'm getting better and better at it. So, there we go. This is a dark green teal color, and this is going to be what brings the wild color of the dogs into the ocean. So a little bit of teal around, but actually it's going to take those darker tones into the blues is my plan. And thanks guys, appreciate all of you who are joining the space. You're a pack of champions. If you want to see what the art looks like when it's finished, there's a link on the website, not a link on the, it's the cold weather, there's a link to the website in the bio. If you jump on that, there is a thing called the archive where you can jump on a walkthrough, and it'll just take you work by work. You can swap the backgrounds around, have a bit of fun, and just see what the work looks like at completion. Some people prefer the work before it reaches completion. They like the process, they like where it's at here, and as it gets more refined and touched up, it loses, for some people, some of that primal vibe that it has, that kind of raw feeling. And I sympathize with that. There was that work sampans and shelter, the one of the boats in Hong Kong, which I believed was finished well early in the piece. I actually got it photographed, and then I thought, oh, I'll keep painting it. But then I realized, like, sometimes work just looks perfect far earlier in the piece, and you take it further, you can lose some of that mystique. That's what I'm trying to say. But that's all that question of, when's the right time to stop a piece of art? People make it quite a whimsical question. I always felt like it was quite a simple question until I started overcooking pieces of art, and then I realized, oh, this is a tough question. There's a reason I get asked this question a lot, and I was not so sympathetic to how do you know when the piece is done? Because the reality of it is you will just know. But the other problem comes in that if you're a painter, you're probably a little bit nuts. And if you're a little bit nuts, your mind frame might change from day to day. Look at someone like, what's his name? I always forget this guy, and he's my favorite painter. The water lily guy. Why does his name always escape me? I've got a qualification in art history, guys, and I just, what's the guy who paints the water lilies? I do this every time. Water lily man, what's his name? Someone help me out. Monet. Thank you, Chrissy. So Monet was an absolute classic for burning all his work. Now, there was nothing wrong with the work. The works that he burnt, thanks, Steve, and I'll do it again. It's just one of those things that, for some reason, every time I think Monet, he just escapes me, and my brain just puts Michelangelo on a plate right there in front of me. And I'm like, wrong dude, what is the dude? And I sweep Michelangelo to the side, and I look back, and it's just an empty chasm, and then I have to ask. And I'm constantly talking to Shelby about artists, which annoys her a little bit, but I'm like, the water lily guy, which one? And she's like, Monet. Monet used to destroy his artwork. Why did he destroy his artwork? He'd destroy it because he'd get sick of it. He'd get angry at it. Now, there was nothing wrong with the artworks he destroyed. What changed was his perspective on the artwork. So, how do you know if an art piece is done? Well, you'll feel it. It'll feel right. It'll be done. But you have to realize that you are the shifting element in this. Sometimes it's not just the artwork that's shifting, it's you. And so, if you feel like it might be done or that you hate it, if it's done, you've probably got a strong positive emotional reaction to it. And if you hate it, strong negative. Both of those are good reasons to stop doing the artwork immediately and give it 48 hours just to gestate, because you might go back to it and think, it's perfect. Or you want to work on it some more. But usually a stand down period of 48 to 72 hours is a good thing to do. A lot of the time, it's better if you're working on multiple pieces, because you just can hang up a work for 72 hours and pontificate whether it's done or not. Otherwise, you might just overcook it. I started doing one work at a time, and when I started doing one work at a time, I wouldn't stand back for long enough to conceive whether it was done or needed more. And so what was happening? I was just overcooking piece after piece after piece, and I thought, I need to get back to doing at least 3 at once. 3 at once means you could put one down for long enough and not overcook it. You could let it breathe. So important. Loki, come. He's been a naughty boy. Got a weak part of the fence down there, and he keeps going down to sniff around it because he knows he can get through it, but I haven't fixed it yet. Hunter, never thought I'd see you again. Oh, Jesus. I've got to stop reading these comments. I'm gonna keep reading. That's a funny one. Yeah, proud reputation from high school. It's good. It's good to see you again, Hunter. It's an honor. It's an honor, actually. And the flows never end. The flows never end. The flows never end. Thanks, the flows never end. Appreciate you. Thanks for being here. Lee. Well, Lee, there's always time to turn that around and become a good boy. I believe in you, Lee. So now all the tuies have gone to bed. You can hear the last chirping of a few different kinds of birds. We'll pause there. Our lighting is gone, Burger. And look at that. Now it's trying to tell me to do the little puzzle piece, picture piece. There we go. I'm going to take this brush inside and wash it. My fingers are frozen. I should be wearing... Vernon, you champion. Welcome back in. Lovely to have you here. Fingers are frozen. Classic. But one thing I love about these pants... Howdy do. One thing I love about these pants is that this thing here can go in here. Yes, MC, you are looking at this exact same the other day, were you not? Well, I'm always looking at either the artwork or the phone. So the phone hasn't changed. That's not true at all, actually, MC. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Jay Smith, you pack of legends. 20k likes. That's awesome. I really appreciate it. Coming back to MC's thing though, I see the exact same thing. I'm using the same stand that I was using back when I first went live on TikTok, but it is untrue to say it's all the same. It's covered in a lot more paint and the phone case has changed. It's a new one I got off Temu. I'm very happy with it. This artwork is the same, yes. Artwork doesn't happen in a day. It happens over about 15 coats. They go about 45 minutes to an hour and a half at a time. That's just acrylic paints. I wish you could do it all at once. I wish you could like brute force your way through pictures. Turns out you can't. Turns out creative process is just a massive non-linear thing that you can't control. You just have to try and go along for the ride and hopefully you get a great piece of work out of it. That's the world we live in. Anyway, guys, much love. Thank you from here in New Zealand. My fingers are frozen. I'm gonna take these inside and get sorted out. And ooh, my timing couldn't be better. Shelby's just pulled up and she asked me what I wanted for dinner. And I told her, I think we should have steak. So she went down to the butcher. She got some sirloins. I'm gonna put them on the griddle and it's gonna be great. Wishing you all the best, guys. Much love from New Zealand and I'll catch you next time. Bye, team.